The Bee Gees song, we're living in a world of fools. And regardless of what you say, and I heard the same thing. And if it is true, I've never heard something so foolish, so self-destructive ever from anybody. Usyk's camp couldn't have done a better job than his dad.
It's a very sad state of affairs because, you know, Daniel Dubois, he doesn't strike me as being the party animal. He's not the kind of guy to want to be around loads of people before he's got such a...
In the brutal world of elite boxing, preparation isn't just about sharpening your jab or running hills until your lungs scream. It's about complete mental immersion, discipline, and sacrifice. But what happened in Daniel Dubois' camp before his high-stakes rematch against Oleksandr Usyk was the polar opposite. What was supposed to be a tight, locked-in final stretch of fight prep devolved into chaos.
Now, if my man's putting a party on and saying, we ain't fighting unless all the crew come in, on fight night, he's an idiot. I don't know him personally, so I can't, but what I'm seeing is foolishness. How can you be so stupid? That's street mentality. This is world-class boxing.
Chaos. It wasn't just a misstep. It was a disaster unfolding in real time, and several top voices in boxing didn't hold back. Johnny Nelson led the charge with ruthless honesty. From the moment footage surfaced of Dubois' pre-fight environment, Nelson tore straight into the madness. He didn't sugarcoat it. In his words, Dubois' father acted
60 or 70 people hanging around you, or people that you don't even know, probably half of them. That's not a good look, if that is the case. I can't really understand what their method of thinking would have been, why they would have been having some kind of a celebration, party, quote unquote, whatever they were doing. But you don't want to be around that many people. It's bad prep.
like an idiot, hijacking fight night with some street-level thinking, hosting what can only be described as a house party in the final lead-up to the biggest fight of his son's career. The timing couldn't have been worse. Instead of doubling down on Don Charles's tactical game plan, the Dubois household turned into a social circus. This wasn't just foolish, it was sabotage. Nelson didn't just view this as a
let's retract. Let's replace the word party with gathering. It was a gathering. Okay?
Okay.
Right. The same gathering we used for the prep on fight day for the AJ fight.
In judgment, he called it what it really was: humiliation on a world stage. In elite-level boxing, perception and mindset matter. And when your corner allows you to get surrounded by hype men, hangers-on, and noise before facing a fighter like Oleksandr Usyk, you're not just distracted, you're mentally unarmed. Dubois looked less like a man preparing for war and more like a confused kid flanked by clowns. Former world champion Duke McKenzie was equally stunned.
His trainer said it was a gathering, and he's done it before. He's had these gatherings before big fights. He did it before AJ, and he got the job done against AJ. But I can't think of anything worse as a fighter, having people around the house that you don't know, and you're having to talk.
When he saw the footage of 60 or 70 random people crammed into Dubois' home ahead of fight night, his jaw dropped. This wasn't elite prep, it was a full-blown circus. McKenzie didn't even attempt to justify what he saw. He called it out for what it was, a complete breakdown in focus. In his eyes, Dubois was mentally drowned before a single punch had been thrown, buried under noise, ego, and delusion. Then Don Charles tried to step in with some damage control. Rather than admitting it was a party, he tried to soften the optics, calling it a mere gathering. But let's not get it twisted. Chaos is chaos, no matter how you dress it up. You don't expect elite focus when a fighter is playing host in the hours and days before a legacy-defining moment. Charles may have tried to defend the circus, but every word only made it worse. This wasn't tradition, it wasn't strategy, it was a train heading off the rails. Carl Froch wasn't having any of it either.
In party mode, you're in fight mode. You're in, I could be walking to a certain death mode here. This is the hurt game. This is a dangerous, hard sport where people get seriously injured in there. And when you're fighting, you want to be in the mode of fight zone, fight mode. Let's go, I'm going to battle, I'm going to war, I'm a fucking warrior. I'm going in there to do some damage and potentially getting some damage done to me.
Known for his straight shooting takes, Froch ripped through the spin with surgical precision. Just because a house party style prep worked once before against Anthony Joshua doesn't mean it should become a blueprint. Boxing isn't a video game. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, especially not against someone as cerebral and dangerous as Usyk. Froch nailed the core issue. How can a fighter possibly lock in when he's hosting strangers, shaking hands, hearing music blaring, and losing his edge by the hour? It wasn't fight prep, Froch thundered. It was a house party disguised as routine, and then he turned up the heat. Froch reminded everyone what it truly means to be in the mindset of war. Before you step in the ring with a monster like Usyk, you should be locked in, mentally detached from comfort, emotionally dialed into destruction. But instead of sharpening his sword, Dubois was entertaining guests like a celebrity.
It's not the way that I think you should prepare for an undisputed heavyweight championship. I can't see how his mind. Surely you want to give yourself the best possible chance. That said, he went out, he gave it his best, and he lost. He lost to the better man, and it was a case
on a press tour. Froch's conclusion hit like a right cross. Dubois rolled into fight week like he was heading to a nightclub. Meanwhile, Usyk was buried in solitude, quiet, focused, lethal. Adam Smith, one of boxing's most respected broadcasters, added his voice to the growing chorus. If Froch brought the fire, Smith brought the scalpel. His breakdown was cold, clinical, and brutal. To Smith, Dubois' performance wasn't just a poor showing, it was the result of a complete mismatch in professionalism. This wasn't a regular Saturday night, it was the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. You don't coast through it on autopilot, and you damn sure don't invite an entourage to party in your living room days before the biggest fight of your life. Smith didn't hold back. In his view, Dubois lost the fight before the opening bell. He lost
in this sport for a long time. I haven't seen that sort of thing before. However, Don Charles has come out saying they had it last time. It worked with the AJ fight. Dave Dubois, Stan Dubois, goes by two names, doesn't he? Has a very, very special relationship with his son, and maybe he thinks he knows best. This is where the difference is with a trainer, Don Charles. Did Don want it? He said that's what we did before, and it worked with AJ. Maybe Daniel's the sort of guy that like to keep things the same way, but the picture's coming out. Yeah, look, it's
at the moment he allowed the noise of the outside world to infect his focus. Smith called it what it was. A clouded mind, inflated ego, and false confidence fueled by people who weren't stepping into the ring. At this level, there's no room for even the smallest lapse. Usyk prepared like a champion. Dubois, like a man clinging to hope. When Smith examined Don Charles's defense of the party and the footage of the prep week, the conclusion only became clearer. Team Dubois was stuck in the past, hoping lightning would strike twice. They leaned on what worked once against a very different fighter, instead of adjusting to the very real, very unique challenge that Usyk presented. Smith even hinted at the deeper issues, the father-son dynamic, the unchecked ego, and the stubbornness that overruled strategic logic. In a chilling summation, Smith described the entire situation as not ideal. That's
he was in the right mindset. I mean, I just think that Usyk had too much for him, like too much mental, too much experience, too much. He had too much for him. There was nothing he could do about that. If it was a smaller Usyk like it was when he fought the first time, maybe Dubois had a good chance. But now that Usyk's bigger and stronger, he already has this. So it's a wrap. It's a wrap for the heavyweight division now. Like I think
putting it lightly. Then came Shane Mosley, a former champion who tried to defend Dubois, but ended up confirming the worst. Mosley insisted Dubois was mentally there, but even he couldn't deny the brutal truth. Usyk was simply levels above technically, mentally, tactically, and when Mosley admitted there was nothing he could do to change the outcome, that spoke volumes. That's not a defense, that's a surrender. At this level of the sport, every little edge matters. You can't afford to be surrounded by chaos when facing a fighter as disciplined and calculated as Usyk. Dave Coldwell drove this point home by addressing a rarely discussed factor: emotional pressure. According to Coldwell, even well-meaning well-wishers can drain a fighter's energy, pile on expectation, and distort their mental clarity. He saw Dubois not as someone walking into the ring with purpose, but as a man crushed under the emotional baggage of others' projections. Coldwell's insight was powerful: that so-called gathering wasn't support, it was suffocation. Instead of giving Dubois confidence,
it's there's pressure coming on more and more, even by people just saying, good luck, mate. You've got this, mate. You're going to smash him, mate. It's just a bit more pressure, a bit more tension, a bit more expectancy from them that's added on to the fighter. The fighter's going into the ring not only wanting to win the fight for himself, but also feels the added pressure from the team.
it gave him a burden. These weren't hardened warriors around him. They were distractions, leeches draining his mental fuel tank before he even laced up his gloves. Coldwell exposed the dark side of misguided preparation. Turning fight week into a spectacle doesn't uplift a fighter, it strangles him. Then Dominic Ingle came in and delivered the most savage metaphor of the entire ordeal. He likened Dubois' house party energy to Viking warriors getting drunk before heading off to die in battle. The comparison was cutting and deliberate. Ingle wasn't just mocking Dubois, he was questioning the entire mindset behind the decision. In his view, no serious fighter facing a killer like Usyk would throw a send-off party, unless deep down, they had already accepted defeat. According to Ingle, this wasn't confidence, it wasn't nostalgia, it was madness. You don't prepare for war by turning your camp into a dance floor, he scoffed. And with those words, he hit the heart of the matter. Ingle made it clear, Dubois entered that ring with fogged senses and delusion in his veins.
And the people who used to party before battle with the Vikings, when they used to get pissed up and, you know, dull the senses and then go and have a fight. But they were going to proper die if they, you know, if they were into battle. It was a do or die situation. So maybe it's the same mentality, but
it wasn't a camp, it was a funeral disguised as a celebration, and Usyk was more than happy to deliver the eulogy. But then came Ingle's knockout line, the one that stripped all the noise away and cut to the deepest wound of all. He declared that Dubois never truly believed he could win in the first place. That was the gut punch. That was the revelation that made everything make sense. Why throw a party days before facing one of the best technicians of this era? Because deep down, you've already surrendered. You're clinging to comfort. You're pretending confidence. The party wasn't strategy. It was an emotional escape. And Ingle saw it plain as day. If Dubois had real belief, true conviction, he would have shut the world out, not invited it in. He would have been in the shadows, sharpening his edge, not smiling for selfies, and soaking in empty praise. When a fighter truly believes he's about to make history, he doesn't host.
because realistically, I don't even think Daniel thought he was going to win that fight. So it's no good having all these people turning up, all these celebrities, you know, getting drunk and having a party on your behalf when it's you going and doing the fighting and they're doing all the shouting.
He locks the doors and trains in silence. But Dubois, he needed the noise to drown out the fear. And just when you thought the narrative couldn't sink any lower, Don Charles returned to defend the madness one last time. He argued that since the house party approach worked before, specifically ahead of Dubois' win over Joshua, it was valid again. But boxing doesn't run on superstition or repetition. It runs on strategy, adaptability, and execution. What worked once won't always work again, especially not against a ring general like Usyk, who reads opponents like open books. Charles tried to spin the chaos as calculated. He called the house party genius in hindsight. But the truth is, genius in boxing isn't about doing what worked yesterday. It's about preparing for the storm of tomorrow. And Usyk wasn't just any opponent. He was a puzzle, a predator, and a
Party at the house prior to the getting to Wembley was against AJ, and it worked. So that's a genius move by the father, right?
No one criticized it when it worked.
So that's a genius move, right? No one criticized it because people were just fixing on the ring walk, Right? So that's a genius move because it worked.
Okay.
Legend in the making. By clinging to the past, Team Dubois walked blindfolded into a new war, and they paid the ultimate price. As the dust settles on this surreal pre-fight debacle, one thing becomes painfully clear. Daniel Dubois was never mentally present. He lost the mental battle long before the opening bell. This wasn't just a tactical failure, it was a total collapse of leadership, belief, and discipline. His father turned fight week into a block party. Don Charles defended it like a routine, but what everyone saw was a fighter already beaten by noise, by ego, by fear. Usyk entered that ring as a man of focus. Dubois entered as a man of distraction. Every voice in boxing saw it. Johnny Nelson called it foolishness. Carl Froch saw a man lost. Adam Smith said it was a mismatch in mindset. Dominic Ingle gave the darkest truth. Dubois never truly believed. And when belief is gone, no amount of hype can save you. So now we ask the million-dollar question, where does Daniel Dubois go from here? Can he silence the noise, cut the distractions, and find the steel needed to rise again? Or has this defeat exposed him as a fighter not built for the summit of the sport? Boxing is unforgiving. Fans remember everything, and redemption only comes to those willing to face the mirror and make the hard changes. What do you think? Is Dubois capable of rebuilding into a true contender, or has this loss confirmed the doubts that have haunted him for years? Let us know in the comments below.